Yo, what's up, everybody? So in this video, I want to talk about the Navy head coach. If you don't know or if you don't follow him, so apparently he got fired yesterday after the overtime loss in the Army Navy game. Um, if you don't know or you live under a rock, the Army Navy game is obviously every year between Army and Navy. It's essentially the last game of the season of the I guess I guess if you want to call it the regular season before bowl season. Um, I guess you can call it a championship game because they do play for the Commander in Chief trophy. Usually, if it comes down to those two, and like Air Force isn't really a part of it, I guess. But anyway, so apparently he got fired yesterday. So there's a story from the Washington Post. Ken Neomatalolo will not be back as Navy football coach after 15 years. That's actually incredible. I knew this guy was around for a while, but I didn't know he was there 15 years. Um, Ken Neomatalolo will not be back as coach of the Navy football team next season after 15 years with the midshipmen. Athletic director Chet Gladchuk announced Sunday, adding that defensive coordinator Brian Newberry was elevated to coach on an interim basis. The stunning move comes less than 24 hours after the midshipmen ended their season with an agonizing 20-17 loss to Army in double overtime. Apparently, that was the first ever overtime game in the series history. That, if you can believe that, that's incredible. As many times they played each other. Yeah, it was the first in storied history. That's insane. Like I said, they've been playing for I think at least a century. I think this game has been going on. I could be wrong, but it's been a long time. Our sincerest gratitude to Coach Ken for what has been a distinguished and impactful legacy at the Naval Academy. Navy football flourished for many years under his leadership. He will forever be remembered for the influence he has had on the lives of those who played for him. Yeah, he's coached a lot of dudes. Neo Matalolo has the most wins of any football coach in school history and owns a record of 109-83. His 10 victories over Army are the most of any coach on either side in the 123 game history. I was close, 123 years. The midshipmen three times reached double digit wins under Neo Matalolo, setting the school record with 11 in 2015 and matching that total in 2019. They also went 10-4 in his second full season in 2019 after he took over for Paul Johnson, who took over at Georgia Tech. So if y'all remember those years when Georgia Tech was running, basically they were running the Navy offense at Georgia Tech. In his first two seasons in the AAC, Neo Matalolo directed the midshipmen to share the West Division title in 2015 and the outright division championship in 2016. They also shared the division title in 2019. 2012 to 2015, Neo Matalolo coached Keenan Reynolds, who became the most prolific quarterback of the triple option era. Reynolds set the FBS record for career touchdowns with 88. That's an FBS record, 88 touchdowns in a career? Is it though? Huh. Okay. Over the past 3 years, however, Navy has gone 11-23. Yeah, they've been. It has not been good for the midshipmen. Uh, yeah, man, it's been a rough few years. The midshipmen have one winning season in 5 years and went 4-10 combined against Army and Air Force over the past 7 seasons. Yeah, that's not good. They have lost 5 of the past 7 meetings with Army. Have won the Commander in Chief's trophy just once since 2016. Navy was hit harder than most programs by coronavirus restrictions in 2020. The team has struggled mightily since. Then they go on for the great respect and appreciation for his 25 years of service to the Academy. The Naval Academy will now move forward with continued high ambitions and embrace a new era of reaffirmed expectations for Navy football and our midshipmen. Um, okay. A sign that change appeared to be on the horizon came last season when Gladchuck fired offensive coordinator Ivan Jasper immediately after a 23-3 loss to Air Force without discussing the move with Neil Matalolo. Uh, yeah, that's not a good sign. If he's just firing people without telling the head coach, that's not a good thing. Wait, what? Jasper was back on the staff 2 days later as quarterbacks coach after Neil Matalolo and Gladchuck met. Neil Matalolo had been the de facto offensive coordinator since, and the team has tied for 106. Good lord, in the nation this season at 21.9 points per game, which doesn't. It just that's embarrassing for that offense is. If you run it right, that offense is like 30 points a game, even in today's era of football, because no one can really stop the triple option. Like you can kind of contain it, but you can't really stop it if you run it right. Um, the mids rank 111 in total offense at 326 yards per game. Now, to be fair, that's skewed because that's like 95, 99% running the ball. So, I mean, yeah, of course. But that's not like if you averaging 300 yards a game and you just run the ball, that's actually pretty impressive. The offense has struggled in 4 of the past 5 years with the 11-2 season in 2019, coming off a record-breaking performance by quarterback Malcolm Perry. The final game of Neil Matalolo's Navy career ended with Army kicker Quinn Moretsky, 39-yard field goal in double overtime after midshipman fullback Anton Hall Jr. fumbled at the goal line. The Black Knights recovered and ran 3 times before attempting the decisive kick. All right, so this is the Washington Post article from yesterday. At basically 2:30 yesterday. I didn't know. I didn't even hear about this until I think I got a. I don't know if I got a notification. I just looked on ESPN. There was a second article, or like there's more backstory to the firing. Um, this is surprising because I mean I understand at the end of the day you do want to win, but the service academies are a little different when it comes to their football. So there's a channel I watch. Uh, so shout out to Uncle Sam's Gaming Reject, and that's the name, Uncle Sam's Gaming Reject. Um, I was in a live stream and I asked him a question about it was what did I ask him? It was basically I asked him um I think I asked him why do they continue to run the triple option in today's era of football because like I get it, like it's something you like really like it's very embedded in the culture of the academies, but you at the end of the day you won't really be able to compete because it's a very outdated offense. I get it. Like most teams, you will only see it once a year if you play like a Navy or Army or like a unit or Air Force. But I asked him the question, and he was like, "Well, the reason they run that is one because it's a discipline thing. Because if you don't know, the triple option is very the triple option at its peak, it's a very disciplined scheme offensively. You have to make sure you get the right blocks. Everyone has to run the right assignments, and then the quarterback has to make the right decisions. Whether the pitch, so there's three things. There's three ways he has to run it. He can, when he snaps the ball, he can either hand it off to the fullback. He can fake the fullback, run it, and he has two options. He can go to the outside, keep it, or he can go to the outside and pitch it. But it all comes down to what defense shows them. But it also it keeps the defenses that they play against disciplined, because you can't really run like necessarily you can't necessarily run a zone defense because it's a run, but you can't really blitz, because if you blitz and you miss an assignment, you're giving up 30, 40 yards on the ground. But he also brought up a point that I never really thought of. When these guys go to the service academies, as part of the deal, you come and you play and you get your education, but you also have to serve in the military. And he brought up a point I never really thought about with the offensive line. They don't want the guys getting really, really heavy, because they still have to, when they're done in school, they have to go serve. But you don't want a guy like you necessarily don't want a guy that's like built like a Alabama offensive lineman who's like 6'6", like 320. You know what I mean? Because you don't want that kind of. You want to when you send these guys off to active duty, you want them in the best shape possible. And yeah, he may be 6'6", 320 in football shape, but that doesn't really cut it when you're out in the actual trenches, out in overseas or like some kind of active duty. And I was like, oh, I've never thought about it that way. And it makes perfect sense. But it sucks though, because when you think about it, could you imagine if like an Army or Navy were able to someday make the college football playoff and play for a national championship? Can you imagine the stories you can make with that? The headlines. You got the Naval Academy made the college football playoff with a chance to play for the national championship. Could you imagine? Like, I think the last time Army and Navy actually played for a national championship was probably like the early 1900s, like at the inception of like college football. That's probably the only time they've actually been seriously in play in a oh my god, serious contention for a national championship. Like I said, with the offense they run now, there's no passing game. The quarterbacks are one dimensional, and unfortunately, like I said, it makes perfect sense. The offense, you won't ever have the best offensive lineman or defensive lineman for that matter, because you'll never have the strongest, more physical people out there. That's just how it is. The main point of the veer and the triple option is basically meant for teams who don't have the strongest line. It's a misdirection, deception offense. That's why teams that are like very, I'm not gonna say, well, they're very bad or mediocre on the offensive line. You run that because you can't run shotgun and drop back and expect them dudes to hold block for 3-4 seconds. That's not happening with a weak offensive line. But you also can't run normal power running plays, because, like I said, the offensive line is not your strong point, and you'll never hold up against anybody. So you have to kind of run the option, because it gives you multiple options. There you go. See, option. You run the option, the triple option, because it gives you three choices. Triple option: fullback, halfback, quarterback keeps. I guess it's the fourth option. You can always fake all that and throw a pass, but that's such a rarity for them guys to throw a pass. Like, I think there was a stat. It was like a few weeks back during one of the Navy games. It was like which team has like the most wins without throwing a pass in the last like 20 years, and it was like Navy with like 8 games. Like the next closest was like, I think it was like 3 games that a team won with complete no passes. I'm not talking about attempt. I'm talking about complete pass. It's one thing to throw the pass, but to complete it, it's like, dang, y'all, that's some serious like video game cheese. Just to play, you don't pass at all, or if you do pass, you're not completing them. But anyway, so there was actually a story that came out today